In my early youth, I remember the epic clash between video game giants Nintendo and Sega. Each of them were locked in a desperate struggle to try to outdo one another, benefiting consumers by producing some of the greatest video games ever made during some of the best years of my life. It was the Super Nintendo versus the Sega Genesis, and for a brief moment, Sega actually did what many thought impossible by surpassing Nintendo in sales in 1991 and by dominating 65% of the North American market. This colossal battle laid much of the foundation for modern video game culture as we know it today. Unfortunately, Sega's greatest enemy was not Nintendo, but the internal management of the company itself. Flash forward to January 31st, 2001. After the decline of the Sega Dreamcast, Sega announced that they were leaving the console business and dedicating themselves to game software development as a third-party publisher. There was a sense of optimism at the time that Sega's franchises would endure and maintain a quality standard of excellence. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what happened. But for the first few years, this seemed like a possibility. One thing that this drastic change meant for Sega was that many of its most cherished franchises would end up seeing ports to other consoles, such as Sony's PlayStation 2, Microsoft's Xbox, and yes, even Sega's longtime rival, Nintendo, would see Sega's premium games on the GameCube. This development blew my mind at the time. I never believed that I would live to see the day that Sega and Nintendo would be working together, much less that Sega would be releasing its games on a Nintendo platform. Due to just how insane the idea of Sega making games for Nintendo seemed to me at the time, I thought it might be fun to take a look at the top 5 Sega games for the Nintendo GameCube. Let's take a look.
Acknowledged. Yeah! Ha!
Starting off the list is a little game by the name of Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. Produced by a man credited with being one of the primary creators of Sonic the Hedgehog, Yuji Naka, Billy Hatcher was selected as a GameCube release because Naka felt that Nintendo's audience would be more likely to appreciate a family-friendly game. Unfortunately, this game was a commercial bomb and was considered to be a financial failure by Sega. This is too bad since Billy Hatcher is actually a really fun game. The game engine is similar to Sonic Adventure 2's, but with some alterations that Yuji Naka called an evolution of the Sonic engine. You can see the fingerprints of Sonic the Hedgehog and Nights into Dreams all over this game, from the character designs to the structure of the levels and gameplay. As Billy Hatcher, it's your job to find the golden eggs of the chicken elders, use them to run over fruit, which helps the eggs to grow, and then, once the eggs grow, they can be used as weapons, and the bigger they are, the more damage they deal out. Once the egg meter fills up all the way, you can use your legendary chicken suit powers to hatch them. Then, once the elder chickens are hatched, they bring sunlight back into the world by crowing the sun back up into the sky. I really enjoy this game. The platforming and combat are unique, and you can collect interesting power-ups by searching for unique eggs to hatch. And the upbeat soundtrack just puts a smile on your face. Give this one a shot if you ever come across it. You may be surprised at just how good this game actually is.
Good morning!
Most people are pretty familiar with Sonic Adventure 2, and the GameCube version, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, is probably the version that most people played. This game will always hold a special place in my heart, as it is the first game I ever bought for the Sega Dreamcast, and it was also the last Sonic title to be released before the Dreamcast was discontinued. The GameCube port is quite good, with some improved textures, some additional scenery. The multiplayer content was improved while removing online functionality, and also the Chow system was more fully fleshed out. They even added Chow Karate, which I think was a great addition. My only real complaint with this game is that I still feel like the music sounds better on the original Dreamcast version, but this is a nitpick since the GameCube soundtrack is nearly as good. I also feel like most people unfairly malign this game, claiming that only 1/3 of it, the Sonic and Shadow levels, are any good. While I admit that Sonic and Shadow levels are the high points of the game, I also really enjoy Knuckles and Dr. Eggman's levels. I only found Tails and Rouge the Bat to be the tedious ones. Also, the Chow Garden is often overlooked and is a very large and enjoyable part of the game, even if it is optional. So really, it's more like 5/7 of this game is good, which would be a 72%, I believe. So, worst case scenario, it's a passing score. To me, the good in this game far outweighs the bad, and as is typical with great Sega games, the soundtrack is fantastic.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
Next up is Phantasy Star Online. When I first bought Sonic Adventure 2, and I saw advertisements for this game, I was super excited to try it out, but my parents did not have internet at the time. When Sega finally ceased production on the Dreamcast, and I realized that Sega was pulling out of the console market, I was extremely disappointed, not least of all because I feared that I had missed out on my opportunity to play Phantasy Star Online with others. While there are still some servers you can hook into and play with the original Dreamcast version, if you know where to look, the nice thing about the GameCube port is that you can play offline with up to 3 other people simultaneously in a split-screen campaign. I also heard that there is a Phantasy Star Online Episodes 1 and 2 Plus version that was released with quests added to the offline mode that were originally exclusive to the online experience. Phantasy Star Online was definitely ahead of its time, and it gave the world its first taste of the true potential of online gaming, as it is seen as a key influence in the creation of MMORPGs such as the World of Warcraft. That being said, it's still nice to be able to experience this game with 3 other people in the comfort of your living room with no internet connection required. If you see this one, I recommend picking it up on the GameCube, as this is an example of Sega at its most innovative and best. Developed by Amusement Vision for Sega's Naomi Card System board hardware, Super Monkey Ball is a game in which you must safely navigate a primate inside a hamster ball through a treacherous course toward an end goal. Due to Sega's restructuring as a company after the death of the Dreamcast, this game was ported over from the arcade to the Nintendo GameCube as a launch title with several augmentations. Happily, this game enjoyed some commercial success and a very positive critical reception from fans and professional critics alike. This game spawned no less than 16 collective sequels and spin-offs, and is a favorite among speedrunners thanks to the variety of shortcuts that can be attempted by those daring enough to risk certain death. For your monkey avatar, that is. Super Monkey Ball has 3 primary game modes. The main game mode is similar to Marble Madness and will keep you on the edge of your seat as your monkey teeters on the edge of doom. There is also a party game mode in which up to 4 players can compete in a monkey race, pretty self-explanatory but fun, Monkey Fight, in which you use a boxing glove attached to a spring to punch other monkeys' balls until they fall off the stage, and my personal favorite, Monkey Target, where you launch your monkey off a ramp and glide towards a floating dartboard to score points. As if this weren't enough, the third is a minigame mode in which you can play monkey bowling, monkey billiards, and monkey golf. It's no small wonder that many hail this game as one of the greatest party games of all time. Of all the games that have surprised players with an unexpectedly high level of quality, Super Monkey Ball is perhaps foremost among them. Yet another example of Sega on their A game. My number one best Sega game for the Nintendo GameCube is also one of my favorite games of all time, Skies of Arcadia Legends. While this game was highly praised by critics, it did not enjoy much in the way of commercial success. Originally released on the Dreamcast, Skies of Arcadia Legends was intended to be ported over to the PlayStation 2 and Windows, but both of those ports were cancelled shortly before its release on the GameCube. Skies of Arcadia is my favorite RPG of all time. The story is compelling and centers around the themes of economic and civil liberty in the face of a tyrannical empire that underground forces fight to oppose. Most of the gameplay in Skies of Arcadia takes place in dungeons that you and your band of sky pirates scour in search of treasure. There is also a large overworld that you can traverse in your skyship. In this overworld, you make discoveries that provide information which can be sold to sailors' guilds in cities found throughout the entire game. The turn-based combat is divided into character and ship combat segments, which are enjoyable if sometimes a little on the frequent side. While the soundtrack in Skies of Arcadia Legends is not as good as the original GameCube version, the music is still enjoyable and exhilarating. The Dreamcast version of this title featured Pinta's Quest, which could be played on the console's virtual memory units. This feature is missing from the GameCube version, but thankfully, the GameCube version does have all the DLC that is no longer convenient to access on the Dreamcast. Also, the GameCube version has a higher polygon count in character models and some improved textures, and even lowered the high frequency of the random encounter battle rate. However, it does censor some of the game's more pirate-themed content, shall we say. Regardless of which version you play, you are sure to have a terrific experience with some of the most interesting gameplay, characters, and universe lore ever put forth in a JRPG. Skies of Arcadia Legends is a rare example of a game that absolutely lives up to the hype that precedes it. Well, that about sums it up for my top 5 best Sega games on the Nintendo GameCube. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing because it really helps me out and it lets me know that you support what I'm doing here on this channel. I am sorry that I did not include F-Zero GX on my list because even though it was developed by Sega, since it's an intellectual property owned by Nintendo, I decided not to count it. But if that was your favorite, go ahead and count it. I don't care, that's fine. Anyhow, I hope everybody's having a great day. Everyone, as always, please be safe and take care until the next time.